Hi, friends. Welcome to Your Magic podcast with Karina Mosqueda. Me. I am an intuitive healer, past life regressionist, and spiritual coach. I am here with this podcast to kind of share my experience, what it's been like on this spiritual journey, what I've seen, learned along the way. I remember a time and place where I was kind of holding on and grasping um everything around me because I had no idea what any of this was. So, I will just be sharing my experiences through this podcast. I will be talking about all things spirituality and healing. So, I hope that you enjoy, and I am so excited for you to be on this journey with me. Let's go ahead and get started. So, today's episode, I want to start off with I want to share my story about how I got here. So, my story goes back to 2017. I That was a time where I had a mini awakening. Um, I decided to go to Costa Rica for my birthday, and in Costa Rica, I met this amazing man who happened to open my eyes to a different world. It felt like growing up in LA. I had diversity around me. I've always known, so many other stories, but hearing him, it was very different. And it felt like he actually was cracking me open. Like he actually got into my soul. Like for the first time ever, I was sharing like the deepest like emotions and feelings and thoughts that I had never felt comfortable enough to share with anyone. So he really pulled that out of me and, really was in this state of like, well, you should just move to Costa Rica and you should just, live your life. And I was like, dude, how the fuck am I supposed to move to Costa Rica? Like, I have a full time job in LA. Like, I have friends, my family's over there, right? So it was almost like I was in this fantasy world. And I came back to LA and came back to my reality. And it was just, that whole trip was it seemed like it never happened. Well, fast forward to 2020. I'm when COVID hit, and just like everyone, I was trapped in my place. I was trapped in my own mind because there was so much. It just felt like everything was restricted. I couldn't go anywhere. Like I couldn't go to work, I couldn't go to school. I'm used to being a person who's out in the streets almost every day, and then all of a sudden you keep me in this house for days at a time, can't go out. Well, my mental health really started going down the drain. I remember I was living with the individual I was in a relationship with at the time, and he was actually working a federal job, so he was out of the house every day. When he would come home from work, it was just like bickering all the time and, doing things that just he was trying his best to get me out of my mental state, but it just wasn't working. So it came down to a point where I was like, hey, I'm out. Like, I have to go figure out what I want, what I need out of this life because I'm just going fucking insane. That was in May. So then I move out on my own. Um, Shortly, within a week, my parents go through this nasty separation. Um, I'm a home person, family person, absolutely love and adore my family. So it really took a toll on me and my siblings. I am the oldest daughter of four. And so a lot of the weight really fell back on me because my parents weren't emotionally there, understandable. They weren't emotionally there. And so a lot of the weight fell back on me. And so that also started messing with my mental health. Here I was already in a bad place. And then all of a sudden, this also falls on top of me. I'm like, oh, fuck, what am I doing? And then um, I actually it just, I've always, so prior, I was already in this very unhappy place, I think, overall, working this 9 to 5 job where it was constantly taking for me. I was lead assistant at a dental office. So that was a lot of work. I was actually handling front office and back office. If you're familiar with that work, it's pretty much running the whole office. And, being on call all the time. And on top of that, family, friends, school. I was doing classes at night. I was taking science classes. Sometimes that meant a lecture in a lab. And I mean, I'm taking fucking chemistry and biology. If like, these classes are fucking hard. So it was me drowning in this. And so one of my ways to cope with this was actually to take edibles, get high every night. As soon as I was done with my homework, as soon as I was done working out, as soon as I was done with what the world wanted from me, I was getting high. And there came a point where I remember in the summer of 2020, I was like, Karina, what are you doing with your life? Is this what your life will look like for the next 5 years, next 10 years? Um, and so I actually started talk therapy, which I did for about a year. Um, and shortly after joining talk therapy, I had my first Reiki session. Um, so the way that I came upon Reiki was, one, I had already run into it on TikTok. I was like, when I was on TikTok on my phone, I was seeing Reiki and spirituality. Mind you, a lot of the times that I was watching this, I was high. So there was this disconnect, right? My human couldn't comprehend it. But I think there was a part of me that really did understand it. Um, and so I remember that I was like, I just need a body massage, right? Like I need a self-love day. I need a spa day. And I remember Googling in the area, um, like a body massage. And the first thing that came up was Reiki massage. And I was like, okay, I keep seeing this thing everywhere. Fuck it. I'm just go for it. I show up and the woman is telling me, she's explaining it to me, but I'm still like, it's not making sense to me. It's not. So I sit down on the table and it's all, if you know about Reiki, it's hands off technique and it's just energy. We're shifting energy in your body. And so she's doing that. And I'm feeling all these sensations. One, my logical mind is like, okay, I'm here to get a massage and you're telling me you're not even going to like massage the knots out? Like, girl, I need a body massage, right? This is all I'm thinking in my head. And so it felt like as soon as I got out of my head, I started feeling all these sensations in my body. I remember like tingling going on all over my body, like twitching. I remember specifically, she was actually working in my heart space. And I remember feeling so happy. Like, I felt lighter than I had in a very, very long time. I guess life just happens and you fall into this routine and you, a lot of people, unfortunately, right? This is their life. Like, there was this overwhelming feeling of, Karina, you did not come here to do and just be this. Like, you're meant to do so much more. Um, so the session ends and she's explaining to me everything that she felt. Now she's telling me things that I'm like, how would you know that? And so that was really what got me interested in Reiki. I was like, okay, something happened here. So the next few weeks, something just shifted in me. It was like she turned on the switch. I didn't feel as depressed anymore because prior to this, I was really, really depressed. I remember when I showed up to that first therapy session, she was like, Karina, you are depressed. We might have to put you on medications. Like, that's how bad it was. And I'm not a medication person, never have been. So I was like, no, 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 no. I got to figure this out. We'll figure this out. Um, but it just felt like I was in this hole. But after this Reiki session, my whole world lit up. Like I was working out more, like I was eating better. I remember for the first time in 5 years, I actually was not getting high every night. So there was this part of me that was like, okay, well, I understand why all of this is happening, unfolding the way that it is. At work, I remember being more happier, feeling more at ease. At school, I also remember like just really things really clicking for me in a way that they didn't before. Like I was studying less. I know that sounds crazy, but I really was. And so it just kind of seemed like everything around me was lighting up. And then I went in for a second Reiki session shortly after, and that was amazing. That was in November of 2020. December of 2020, I lost my godfather, who is like my second father. And I say is because I'm still very much connected to his essence, to his spirit. He is with me at all times. One of my spirit guides. And so 2020, December 2020, I remember being at the funeral and just thinking, I wonder what Reiki could help me and my loved ones with in this very moment. And so fast forward to January 2021, I'm high and I'm in meditation, and all I hear is do Reiki, do Reiki. So instantly I'm Googling, like, okay, how do I get certified in Reiki? And so the certification seemed pretty easy. So I was like, oh, okay, let me go. I remember this was at the end of January 2021. I remember showing up to my Reiki master's house. And I remember that all the girls there were talking about spirit teams and tarot cards and astrology and all of these things that have to do with spirituality. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like I've never really I've heard of these things, I've heard these terms, but I've never really tapped into any of this. And I really felt out of place, like so out of place. I remember, so you have to get attuned to Reiki 1 and 2 within the same class, but most teachers, depending on who you go to, they'll do it within a 2-week span. And so I remember after that Reiki 1, I I felt like I hadn't learned anything. Like I still didn't understand Reiki, the concept of Reiki. And so I was like, why would I even return to Reiki 2 if I don't understand Reiki 1? And I was really in my head about these things, right? Again, like I'm not understanding this. So then I do end up showing up to Reiki 2. And that was where we actually started practicing on each other. And so I remember that I started feeling this like heat in my hands. It's like there was heat coming out of here. And I was like, oh, I feel something. And that was a time where it really clicked. I was like, okay, maybe Reiki is, maybe they're up to something. Because I remember that I was working on my partner and I was feeling like hot energy on our body. And, when I came to her afterwards, when I was hearing all these messages. They were just coming to me. They were just in my head. And I was like, I feel like I have to tell you this. And once I told her, I feel like there was just so much, like that was confirmation for me. And it made me feel good. I was like, yes, I got this right. I did it right. Um, but then again, I felt like it wasn't enough. I wasn't enough because when we all started sharing about our experience, everyone else had like massive experiences. Like, yeah, oh my God, I saw my grandma and I saw this and I connected with this. And I was like, I didn't see none of that. What? What? And so that was like another kick in the ego. Like, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I have no idea. And maybe this isn't meant for me. Um, So I come home after Reiki 2 and I remember just feeling like, what the fuck? Like, I just took this for nothing. And, I was like, you know what, Karina, what's the worst that can happen? You already did the fucking class. Like, start doing self Reiki on yourself. So I do start doing self Reiki on me. And at this time, February, March, April, May, June, I remember really stepping into this place of like self development and like healing and like working through my traumas and opening up to the idea of the third eye, like manifesting and, seeing things beyond the physical reality. And it's kind of paved way for what was coming, I guess. Because in December of 2021, I actually got COVID. I got really, really sick. And I was bedridden for about a month. So I remember I lost my job. I got kicked out of the place I was living at. And I'm back in my parents' house. And my mom is like, "What are you going to do with your life now?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." Um, I also had just finished school at the time. And so I knew that I wanted to get into a program. I just didn't know if I wanted to get into the dental hygiene program or dental program at the time because I knew I worked in the dental field. I wanted to go further with that. Um, so it was just kind of like it seemed like, okay, well, Canvas is blank right now. It's up to you. So then the person that I was dating comes back in the picture and he's like, "Karina, I want to take the next step with you. Marry me." And I'm like, "Oh, all right. Yeah, sure. Okay, let's go." So we moved to San Francisco together. And I remember thinking, right, I was like, San Francisco is such a smart move because they have some of the best dental hygiene programs there. I could apply. They have two dental schools that I can apply to. Whatever one I get into, we'll go with it. And so I actually applied. I applied to everything and got rejected from every single one. Mind you, I'm very confident when it comes to the dental field. I've always been a very confident person. Uh, I have some of the best recommendations. And I remember at the time reaching out to them and being like, "Hey, put in word for me." "Yes, Karina, no worries." Um, my grades at school were good. Like everything checked out, but I got rejected. So I was like, "All right, no biggie, no biggie. Let's just work. Let's continue working these next 6 months and then we'll reapply in the summertime." Um, so I found this amazing job and I'm working, I'm making money. In the evenings, I'm practicing Reiki like on family, on friends. And so things really seem to be going well. Okay, well, come June, my fiance says my fiance at the time says, "Let's move to San Diego. I know you've always wanted to move to San Diego." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah." I was like, "But fuck, there's no schools, there's no dental schools in San Diego." I was like, "Okay, what if I just moved to San Diego for a year and then apply to dental school after that?" So that was a plan. We ended up moving to San Diego and I find like the job of my dreams. I move into the apartment of my dreams. And all of a sudden, the universe is like, "Ah, ah, ah, no, 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 no. None of this is for you. You're meant to be better." Things really started to go downhill with my fiance at the time. Um, like I knew that I had to leave, but I was very comfortable. We had been in a toxic relationship for almost 10 years at that time. So it was a comfortable place to be in. Like I already knew what was up. Um, and then work really got to a place where it felt like it was sucking the life out of me. Like what I used to love of the dental field was I no longer loved. I remember being in this office, this amazing office that a lot of people couldn't get into, but again, because I showed up at the interview, killed it. It just I was hired on the spot. I remember thinking like I can't believe that these dental offices hustle these people. Like that doesn't feel right in my soul to have to lie to someone every single day just so I can get their money. And so that was really in the back of my head for a long time. Then school was another thing, right? My dad was like pushing me in the background, like, "Karina, what about school? What about school? What about school?" Um, Again, my family, they're really, very attached to my family. And so, they just always want what's best for you, right? But at the time, it felt like I didn't even know what I wanted for myself. So the universe was like slowly like putting me in this uncomfortable position. And so come October, I end up leaving my fiance at the time. It just got really bad. And I was like, I got to get out. I ended up moving with this awesome girl in San Diego, and me and her, it was amazing. Um, and so that was the first step of really like taking my life back. Um, and then in December of 2021, I there was another big issue at this office, me and the manager. And so I actually ended up leaving the office. And I remember thinking, right, like I'm financially good. Like I can handle, like I have enough in my savings that I can handle this. Well, I was like, what about school? Fuck it. I'm just going to go. All I have right now, all I have left is Reiki. So fuck it. I'm going to dive into that all the way. And then in January of 2022 is where things really started to shift for me because I started meeting people who were on the same wavelength, on the same frequency, more Reiki practitioners, and they just started opening like the way for me. I remember actually meeting this friend who was a mentor to me at the time, and my gosh, she opened up so much for me, like dimensions upon dimensions upon dimensions. And I was just like, wow, the healing that unraveled for me all of 2022 through like friendships, plant medicine, Reiki, so many different modalities that I tried. I really like went in on my own healing. And so it was a struggle. Financially, it was a struggle. Healing wise, it was definitely a struggle too, losing friends, losing so many things around me. But even though it seemed like my world was just like bah, like on fire, there was this peace in my heart, like everything is going to be okay, everything is working out. And so fast forward to August of 2024, for the first time ever, I feel like I had to go through all of that to get to where I am today. I'm so at peace with my life. I am helping people heal through their own traumas and living in this magical world every single day. Like everything that I do is magic, complete magic. Like the world that I once knew, the world that once existed for me, like so physical, so dense, so stressful, doesn't exist whatsoever. And I just want to be able to open up the road for a lot of people to really start remembering who they are, because this is who we are to the core. We are magical beings. We are beings that don't don't need to be in that dense, stressful 3D society. Like it that world again is so dense, and it's just beautiful to be on this side. It's beautiful to really look at life and understand why the world is happening, why everything's happening for you and not to you. To be out of that victim mentality, to be out of that anger, to be out of that like all these emotions that really keep us stuck. I don't drink anymore, which is amazing. I haven't gotten high in so long, and it feels amazing. I felt like for a long time I was living this life of pleasing everyone else and wanting to figure out why things didn't work out the way that I wanted to, because I was trying to please my dad, please my mom, please my siblings, please my manager, please everyone outside of me. I wasn't really going inwards and saying, what does Karina want out of life? And whatever that means to you, for Karina, it meant being in this place where I do get to sit in magic art all day, where I get to travel, where I get to, light up other people's worlds. That's what makes me happy. And that's what lights my soul on fire. So, ask yourself these questions. What lights your soul on fire? What makes you happy? What what can you like want to experience in your everyday where you just wake up and you're like, I made it. I'm genuinely happy. So, thank you for being here with me today. This is episode 1 of You Are Magic with Karina Mosqueda. And I hope to see you here in episode 2, 3, 4, 5. Who knows how far we'll get? I would love to say that we're going to get far in this, but for now, I'm just sharing my feelings, my thoughts, and hope that you learn something along the way. So, thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.